everyone, and welcome to the virtual Narcan training provided by the new Paltz opioid response team. My name is Jackie Sorello, and I do the alcohol and substance use prevention at SUNY New Paltz. You'll be hearing from other community organizations today, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. How this training will work is that we'll go into a current local data snapshot. We'll watch a video about how to administer Narcan. We'll have some provider content for you, and then we'll finish with a Q&A. Thank you and welcome again.
Hi there, I'm Jillian Nadiak-Bruck from the Healing Community Study here in Ulster County. We were a recipient of a grant to help combat the opioid epidemic, and as a result, we're bringing all of our community organizations that focus on opioid prevention together to really work on a bunch of new strategies that we're backing with the funding that we received from Columbia University. And this Narcan training virtually is part of that strategy. Very exciting work that we have going on today. And we're hoping that you get a lot from this training and that it gives you whatever you're hoping to get. So if you give me one moment, I will get my presentation up. Okay, so in 2018, we had our worst numbers in regards to opioid fatalities. Nothing was more uplifting than seeing that number decrease by almost half in 2019, as you can see in this chart. Unfortunately, this year we are rapidly approaching 2018 numbers, which was one of our worst years. We can assume that this is mostly in part due to COVID and the resulting isolation and financial troubles people have been experiencing. I say assume because we can never be too sure since we're right in the middle of it right now, but one can infer. We're seeing an increase in fentanyl-related overdose deaths in Ulster County and a decrease in other opioids. Heroin deaths, excluding fentanyl deaths, have zeroed out since 2019, which you can see here. It's pretty interesting to see that this is mostly fentanyl related. There's a major spike at the beginning of COVID in April. Overall trending high compared to last year, with the exception of October, which was attributed to the major distribution of deadly fentanyl, which caused a terrible surge in opioid fatalities. We're obviously quickly approaching our worst numbers from 2018. This slide shows overdoses versus actual fatalities. The blue line represents all overdoses, whereas the orange reflects fatalities. Although we never want someone to ever have to experience an overdose, these numbers are so important when considering the impact harm reduction measures such as Narcan have on our community. And one of the most important things to remember when observing these charts is that if we replaced each individual number with a name, we would not be able to read it on one slide. And along with every individual who has passed away from an overdose is a family mourning their loss. We must continue to do all that we can as a county and as community members to reduce stigma, create a more understanding environment for our loved ones and community members experiencing opioid use disorder, and be part of a solution by arming ourselves with the skills necessary to save a life and give someone a second chance. Over 300 people in our community have been given second chances this year. These are our brothers, our sisters, mothers, fathers. Unfortunately, over the years, the degrees of separation between ourselves and someone who has been lost to an overdose has become paper thin. If you're here today, it may be because you've already come too close. We want to thank you for taking the time to be here today and playing your part in creating a healthier, more understanding community. I have a few more bits of information that I'd like to share with you before we move on to the official training. The Healing Community Study team has recently started an opioid overdose prevention provider survey to gauge the impact Narcan distribution is having on our community. As we get started, our participation is low, but the numbers are still uplifting, and we're hoping and we're looking forward to getting more feedback as this survey is taken by more OOPP providers. So last month, 30 Narcan trainings were hosted. 30. This is just one of them. 208 kits were distributed into our community. And most incredibly, 23 kits were voluntarily reported back to have been used by those who received them. This is not mandatory information for trainees to give back to those that train them. However, many of our providers have been encouraging people to report back, not only to receive another kit, but so we can understand how this is helping. So if you end up using the Narcan that you receive as a result of taking this training today, we highly encourage you to reach back out and let us know. You don't have to, no pressure at all, but it's incredibly helpful to understand how the opioid epidemic is continuing and hopefully being tackled in our community. And last, 61 harm reduction kits were distributed and given to people who requested them. This means safe sex kits, medication disposal bags, everything needed to reduce the harm that is caused as people find their way to recovery. So thank you so much again. I know that was a little bit of a long presentation, but I hope that you found this information helpful, and I hope it reiterates the necessity and the importance of you taking this training today.
Thank you, Jillian. As this training continues, we're about to show you a brief Narcan training video. And so we will not be on the screen, but we ask you to just watch this next component. And after that, we will move into our conversation with our local providers. Thank you.
Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. Please see indications and important safety information at the end of this video. Also, please see accompanying full prescribing information in the use of this product. Narcan nasal spray is an emergency treatment for a known or suspected opioid overdose. The appropriate use of Narcan nasal spray can help you save a life. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. If you encounter someone who is unresponsive and you suspect an overdose, first shake their shoulders and shout their name.
Kevin.
Ask if he or she is okay.
Hey, can you hear me?
Check for signs of an overdose, unresponsive to touch or voice. Breathing is slow, uneven, or has stopped. Snoring, gasping, or gurgling sounds. Fingernails or lips are blue or purple. Administer Narcan nasal spray as quickly as possible if someone is unresponsive and an opioid overdose is suspected, even when in doubt, because prolonged respiratory depression may result in damage to the central nervous system or even death. Lay the person on their back to receive a dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove Narcan nasal spray from the box. Peel back the tab with the circle to open it. Remove and review the printed quick start guide inside the package. Hold the Narcan nasal spray with your thumb on the bottom of the plunger and your first and middle fingers on either side of the nozzle. Do not press the plunger to test or prime the device. If you do, you will waste all or part of the dose of medication. Tilt the person's head back and provide support under the neck with your hand. Gently insert the tip of the nozzle into one nostril until your fingers on either side of the nozzle are against the person's nose. Press the plunger firmly to give the full dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove the device from the nostril after giving the dose. After you have given this medication, seek emergency help right away. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care.
I'm with somebody who stopped breathing. I think they've had an overdose.
Move the person on their side after giving Narcan nasal spray. If possible, put their hands under their head and bend their upper leg forward. This helps prevent the person from rolling onto their stomach. This is known as the recovery position. Continue to watch the person closely. If they do not wake up or respond to your voice or touch, or if they do not seem to be breathing normally within 2 to 3 minutes, use a new Narcan nasal spray to give an additional dose in the other nostril. Acute opiate withdrawal symptoms may occur from use of Narcan nasal spray in patients who are opioid dependent. Symptoms include body aches, diarrhea, increased heart rate or tachycardia, fever, runny nose, sneezing, goosebumps, also known as piloerection, sweating, yawning. nausea or vomiting, nervousness, restlessness or irritability, shivering or trembling, abdominal cramps, weakness, and increased blood pressure. When the emergency is over, put the Narcan nasal spray back in its box and throw it away in a place that is away from the reach of children. In addition to watching this video, please read the quick start guide that comes with Narcan nasal spray before using it. Talk to a healthcare professional if you have any questions about how to administer Narcan nasal spray. Please read the indications and important safety information that follows. Store Narcan nasal spray at room temperature between 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 25 degrees centigrade. Do not freeze Narcan nasal spray. Keep Narcan nasal spray in the box until ready to use. Protect from light. Replace Narcan nasal spray before the expiration date on the box. Keep Narcan nasal spray and all medicines out of the reach of children. Indications. Narcan naloxone hydrochloride nasal spray is an opioid antagonist indicated for the emergency treatment of known or suspected opioid overdose as manifested by respiratory and/or central nervous system depression. Narcan nasal spray is intended for immediate administration as emergency therapy in settings where opioids may be present. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. Important safety information. Narcan nasal spray is contraindicated in patients known to be hypersensitive to naloxone hydrochloride. Seek emergency medical assistance immediately after initial use, keeping the patient under continued surveillance. Risk of recurrent respiratory and CNS depression. Due to the duration of action of naloxone relative to the opioid, keep the patient under continued surveillance and administer repeat doses of naloxone using a new nasal spray with each dose as necessary while awaiting emergency medical assistance. Risk of limited efficacy with partial agonists or mixed agonist-antagonists. Reversal of respiratory depression caused by partial agonists or mixed agonists-antagonists, such as buprenorphine and pentazocine, may be incomplete. Larger or repeat doses may be required. Precipitation of severe opioid withdrawal. Use in patients who are opioid dependent may precipitate opioid withdrawal, characterized by body aches, diarrhea, increased heart rate, tachycardia, fever, runny nose, sneezing, goosebumps, piloerection, sweating, yawning, nausea or vomiting, nervousness, restlessness or irritability, shivering or trembling, abdominal cramps, weakness, and increased blood pressure. In neonates, opioid withdrawal may be life-threatening if not recognized and properly treated, and may be characterized by convulsions, excessive crying, and hyperactive reflexes. Monitor for the development of opioid withdrawal. Risk of cardiovascular, CV, effects. Abrupt postoperative reversal of opioid depression may result in adverse CV effects. These events have primarily occurred in patients who had pre-existing CV disorders or received other drugs that may have similar adverse CV effects. Monitor these patients closely in an appropriate healthcare setting after use of naloxone hydrochloride. The following adverse reactions were observed in a Narcan nasal spray clinical study: increased blood pressure, musculoskeletal pain, headache, nasal dryness, nasal edema, nasal congestion, and nasal inflammation. See instructions for use and full prescribing information in the use of this product. To report suspected adverse reactions, contact Adapt Pharma Inc. at 1-844-4-NARCAN, 1-844-462-7226, or the FDA at 1-800-FDA-1088 or www.fda.gov/medwatch.
So welcome back from watching the video, everyone. At this point, it's really my pleasure to introduce to you Marva Greer, who is one of the providers who is working with us on our opioid overdose prevention and response team. Marva, take it away.
Hi, guys, and thank you so much for joining us today. Again, my name is Marva Greer. I work for the Institute for Family Health. And one of the initiatives I'm working on with the Institute is improving access to overdose treatment. Part of those activities include conducting what we're doing now, which are overdose responder trainings. So I really just wanted to piggyback off of some of the information that was outlined in the video. And one, of course, was to remember your universal precautions. Universal precautions are anything or any barrier you use to protect yourself against the bodily fluids of someone else. Right now, what we're experiencing are two epidemics. So since we're fighting these two epidemics and we want you to encourage you to respond to an overdose, we're going to ask you to do a few things. And the first is, in the event of an opioid overdose, you want to make sure you, as the responder, protect yourself. So in the event that you're doing your initial assessment, you want to make sure you use the gloves that are also offered in your Narcan kit. You can use these gloves to do the initial assessment when you're doing your sternal rub. Again, placing a barrier between yourself and that person. Also, at the end of your response to the opioid overdose, if you decide as a responder to provide additional care, please utilize the breathing device that's located in your kit. This can be utilized if you decide to provide additional care for rescue breathing after the opioid overdose. Again, always protect yourself. We want you to respond, but we also want to make sure that you come out of this thing just as healthy and safe. So if it's wet and it's not yours, don't touch it. Remember, stay safe. We appreciate you for responding, and we encourage you to respond. We appreciate you attending today. And again, thank you so much for your time and attention. Always stay safe.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us on this training. Introduce myself. I'm Matt Goodnow. I'm the chief of the New Paltz Rescue Squad. Just wanted to take a minute to emphasize a couple things that are very important to me as a first responder and a paramedic. Is first of all, remember, you can't hurt anybody by giving them Narcan. Even if they're not having an overdose and it's some sort of other medical emergency, it will not do any harm. Rescue breathing and, if needed, CPR are very, very important. You need to understand that these people who are not breathing are not getting any oxygen exchange, and therefore they're suffering. So it's important to get the Narcan on board, but if they're not breathing, if you are trained and know how, please provide rescue breaths. And if you're CPR certified, make sure you check for a pulse, and if necessary, start CPR. The Narcan will work either way. So make sure you get it in, and the rescue breathing and CPR will just help that process, helping to save a life. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
My name is Chris Dennehy. I'm the executive director of Step One. It's an outpatient substance abuse treatment program in Highland and Ellenville and Kingston. And we treat people who have either identified or someone in their life has identified concern that they do or may have a substance use disorder. We also treat people with mental health issues, whether co-occurring or on their own. So that's the treatment end of it. What we're looking at today, and what I'm very impressed, and I have a lot of respect for you for deciding to take this training and join our team in the county to do the piece that you can do. I mean, that's all any of us are really doing. We're doing the part that we're able to do. And this Narcan could very well save someone's life. And whether they have a substance use disorder or an addiction or not, anybody can overdose. It can be accidental, it can be intentional, any of those things. And you don't have to figure any of that out. All you need to do is to follow the training. And I wanted to add too that I'm sure you've heard about fentanyl. It's an opiate that's a much more potent, fentanyl. If somebody has taken that, there's a possibility that they will revive and then slip back into the overdose, into unconsciousness. So you can't give too much Narcan. So like Matt had said, you can give Narcan even if it's not an opioid overdose. You're not sure, it's not going to harm them. Also, it's not going to harm them if you need to give several doses. It's better to do that and give too much than to not do it at all. And also that you may or may not know the person that you are helping out. And so if you don't know them and they may they may become conscious again and not be real happy about the fact that you've made them conscious. If they purposely had taken the drug, that's what they were looking for. And they probably weren't looking for the overdose, but you are interrupting that high that they were searching for. So that still means you do it, you go for it. But just that awareness that they may wake up and not be real grateful, and not to take that to heart. Because in my experience of over 20 years working in the field of treatment, most folks come into treatment and it's not completely their idea. And once they're in treatment for a while, they start to realize that there really is an issue and that there's a change or changes that they can make to claim their life back. So again, I applaud you for giving somebody the opportunity to potentially claim their life back. Thank you.
So as we move into this next part of the training, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie and Jillian, because we have received a number of questions from viewers and participants in previous trainings that we know are a good thing to touch back on before we close out this session. So Jackie and Jillian, take it away, please.
So our first question is, what if it is not an overdose? Will my giving someone Narcan hurt them?
Okay, so the question was, if I give them somebody Narcan and they don't need it, will it hurt them? And absolutely not. Narcan is designed specifically to only work on the opioid receptors on the cells. So it will only work if there's opioid to push off of the cells. Otherwise, it will cause no harm, and there's no interaction with other drugs or other illnesses. It's perfectly safe.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt. The second question is, what is the youngest age that is safe to give Narcan to?
So there is actually no age that is too young to give Narcan to. Unfortunately, once in a while, there is an infant or a young child that is involved in an overdose accidentally. So you can absolutely give it to any age.
Thanks, Matt. Our next question is, does Narcan work for overdoses from other drugs?
So as I said in the first question, Narcan is designed specifically to knock opioids off the receptors of the cell. So therefore, it will only work on opioids. It will not work on other drugs like benzodiazepines or drugs of those nature that are not opioids. There are other drugs out there that we can give for that, but they're not, due to some risks associated with them, they're not available to the general public.
Could you clarify what opioids are? Like, what are some examples of what opioids are?
So opioids are drugs like heroin, morphine, fentanyl. Those are all drugs that fall under the class of opioid. And they're often abused because of the response that it creates in the body. Like Chris had spoke before, of trying to get that high.
Great, thank you. The next question is, what do I do if a person comes out of an overdose angry and confused?
This is Chris from Step One again. Yeah, and I had addressed that a little bit in my introduction. If they show up or come out of it, become conscious again, angry and confused, then you can, and this is, you've done your part. Let me just reiterate that you've done your part. They are conscious again. And the assumption that we're all working off of in this presentation, and that was addressed in the training, is that you've already called 911, you've called for help. So they're either on their way or they'll be showing up. So when the person's revived, you can just let them know what's happened, and that there's help on the way. So, and that's really all you really need to do. And the reality is, if you, again, you've done your part. So even if the person, and this, I'm not saying this happens all the time or anything like that, but if possible, when you apply the Narcan to the nasal cavity, if you could be standing behind them meaning, so if they sit up, that they'll be sitting up away from you. So if you're sort of behind their head and applying it, so that's just a concrete kind of physical thing you can do. Other than that, in responding to their distress, if you feel like you want to say something to try to calm them down, if not, it's not up to you to handle all those pieces. You can even exit the area if you want to. You've done your part. So I hope that's helpful.
Thanks, Chris. Kind of a follow-up question from that is, what if the person doesn't want to go to the hospital?
Okay, so that's a great question, because that could very well follow along. Again, you've done your part. In fact, you've done an amazing, immense part, because they would be dead if you didn't take this action. And then there's no way that then you can decide what they're going to do beyond that. If you don't know the person, and they're saying they want to go to the hospital, then that's it. If somehow they're able to get up and they're gone before emergency personnel show up, I mean, you can't control that. If you feel like you want to encourage them to wait, you can. Just know that you don't have to. It's not part of the training purposely, because you've done your piece, and it's the biggest possible piece that needed to happen. If it is a family member or somebody you do know, then sure, use whatever you have in your bag of tricks in your relationship with that person to try to encourage them to stay and wait for the ambulance, and then possibly even get help if you know that they have an issue with substances. I would encourage not the use of anger, but the use of fear, which you're probably sure as you know what feeling. So fear, confusion, speak from that, and just let them know that you're scared and terrified, and just, will they please get help? Because when you come from that vulnerable, very real, genuine place, instead of being angry and rageful, they feel it on that level, that emotional fear, because they're frightened as well, and they're feeling out of control and powerless. So again, just if you know the person, you feel like you can say something, I would encourage a more vulnerable position instead of anger, and encourage them to get help, and reiterate that that's what you really want for them. So.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Right.
Our next question, Marva sort of touched on a bit, but hopefully you can reiterate, maybe add a little bit more. What about COVID? Should someone be offering rescue breathing during this time?
That's a really, really good question. COVID is it's a mystery infection, and we're not sure, what the exposure level is. So I like to always tell people, in my experience working as a first aid and CPR instructor, it is up to the rescuer's discretion whether or not they want to take the initial step. But I like to base things on whether I know, like, or love someone. If I know this person, if I like this person, if I love this person, I may extend and put myself at risk, but be very mindful that if this is someone you don't know, if this is someone off the street, you always want to make sure that you utilize your universal precautions. To be consistent, if you have the barriers to use, always use them. So should you use a rescue breathing device? It's at your discretion, but I always feel like consistent use of any type of barrier or precaution is always good. So if you have it, use it, okay? Inside your kit, you'll have gloves, you'll have a breathing device. If you know, like, or love the person, you should want to do that extra step. However, if you don't feel comfortable and you don't know the health risk associated with helping someone, remember, your health comes first. Great question. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Marva. Our next question is, how do I get a replacement kit?
I think I'm going to hop in on that one. I know in New Paltz, for those who are viewing here, we have 3 opioid overdose prevention programs. New Paltz Rescue, Step 1, that's here. Institute for Family Health is one. we also have a family of New Paltz. So you can go to any one of those places, contact them and let them know, especially with COVID in advance, needing to reach out and just let them know you were attended a training, you've used your kit and you need a replacement kit. And the same would be if it has expired. Of course, if it's expired and that's the only kit you have and you're in an emergency situation, you use that, right? And you call your 911 number, but you can reach out to us. And if you forget all else, you can always reach out to me at the town, and I will help guide you to the numbers. There's also on the website for one-on-one training. Everyone that's listed on the one-on-one training option on that webpage is an opioid overdose prevention program. So you can get, if you forget, their numbers are right there on the website. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to get that information if you forget. And at the end of this training, all of those numbers and the web address will be on the screen, so you'll be able to jot those down and put them in your phone if you need to. Thanks for the great question.
Awesome. Thank you, Phoenix. The next question is a question that people always ask. They want the convenience of it, having the kit in their car. Can they leave it in the car? Is that something that they should be doing, that they can be doing?
Ideally, no. Narcan is designed to be kept at room temperature, as with many other drugs. Therefore, it has a comfortable zone in between like 60 and 80. So therefore, any highs or low temperatures that will be experienced in your car, and as you know, in the heat, your car gets very hot in the sun. It's not good for the Narcan. However, I will say that if it's your only option, it's better than not having it at all.
Great, thanks, Matt. Our next question is, will I get arrested if I have drugs or paraphernalia on me?
So I'll jump in on that question. No, you will not. New York State has what's known as the Good Samaritan Law, and it was enacted to empower people to call 911 to deal with life-threatening situations like we experience with opioid overdoses. The law protects you from being charged for possessing controlled substances, possessing alcohol where underage alcohol drinking may be involved, possessing marijuana of any quantity, any drug paraphernalia, or even sharing drugs. We want you to call the police. We have experienced deaths in our community as a direct result of not having been called in a timely manner. So we want to encourage everyone to call us as soon as possible because it allows other life-saving measures to be brought into play, whether it be through the police department or the rescue squad, and it's really important that that phone call starts that process. So we definitely want people to call 911.
Thank you, Rob. Now, what about being sued? Can someone who's revived with Narcan sue you for giving them a dose?
No, as a matter of fact, the law also protects an individual who is, acting on their own voluntarily from who may administer Narcan. The law protects them from any type of lawsuit that may arise from that. And again, I think it's New York State public health law prohibits that. So they are protected. And so if you have a kit, we would strongly encourage you to use that because the longer you wait, the less likely it may be to be effective. The only thing we would also kind of piggyback on what Chris said, in terms of starting those other life-saving measures, we do want to encourage people to go to the hospital because it's a reminder that the effects of Narcan are not permanent. They're only going to last maybe 30 to 90 minutes, and then that individual may relapse. So, we do want to encourage, more thorough medical treatment to an individual patient.
Great, thanks, Rob. And our last question is, who can I call if I'm worried about a friend or family member's substance use?
Hi, this is Chris Dennehy from Step One. There'll be a list of resources that'll be available to you at the end of this. So if you decide that you have an issue, if you are concerned about somebody you love and care about, or maybe you just like them, you don't have to love them. If it's somebody you care about, you're concerned about them, or you want help for yourself in dealing with someone who has an addiction, you can call Step One. We're an outpatient program. So we deal with, you would call up 691-9191. Again, that's 691-9191. It's in the resources. And in calling us, you would be set up for an assessment evaluation, or just given some resources if that's all you're looking for. And in terms of treatment, it's various levels. It can be once a week. It can go all the way up to 6 days a week, depending on what the person needs and what the person's open to. And group therapy, family therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy. We use a team of clinicians to address the issues. And again, it's not just the drug and don't do the drug. It's all the pieces that are affected by the substance use, and then potentially also a co-occurring mental health issue. So we have a psychiatrist on board. We do medication management. We have MAD, or medication assisted treatment, or it's also called MOUD, like Vivitrol, Suboxone. So we run the gamut at our clinics. We have the Highland Clinic, Ellenville Clinic, Kingston Clinic. But there's also other programs that do similar things. So they're also in the resources. And the best goal is if you are concerned, to reach out to one of them, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. I know some of the concerns of coming to an outpatient treatment program is that they're going to make me come all the time and all this, but we genuinely don't. We assess where you're at, and we devise a plan with you. That's our team of therapists, and then you become part of that team in seeking out that help. I also wanted to, there's also the 12-step meetings and support systems that are part of the resources as well. Reaching out to any of those parts, because especially with addiction, it thrives in secrecy and in the shadows. So once you bring it out into the light with people who understand, you're going in the right direction. I wanted to bring out also the expiration of the kits. They have been mentioned earlier, and just know that if you have an expired kit, you can still use it. It's not like it's expired and it becomes toxic. The expiration is just it starts losing some of its potency. So just an encouragement to, if you have it, to use it in those emergency situations. Right.
Great. And we have one final question. Where can people access harm reduction kits, such as medication disposal bags or anything of the like?
Great. So my grant, though, through OASIS, Office of Alcoholism and Substance Use Services, New York State OASIS, they have given us a bunch of medication disposable bags that are free of charge. So if you would like that, just let us know when you are getting your Narcan kit, and we can add that to your package. So you'll be having your Narcan kit and your medication disposable kit. We also have the medication disposable kits at different locations where our Narcan kits are located in the community, which will be listed as well.
At this point, I want to thank all of our team members, not just for today's session, but we do have monthly live Zoom trainings. So, and the way to sign up for those is on the website, which you can now see below. Opioid Prevention NP for newpaltz.org. And there are also regional trainings that happen on the first Wednesday of every month. And that's also information that's available at the website. Once you complete viewing this training, how you get your kit is actually so simple. All you need to do is click on the icon that says Receive My Narcan, and fill out the web form. If you live in New Paltz and the municipalities close to New Paltz, we will be able to deliver your kit to your home. If you're outside of our delivery area and we cannot find a volunteer who can do a drop off at your location, your kit will be mailed to you. So the address that you provide for us is very important. That is, it needs to be your mailing address. If it's a mailing address that's different than your residence, then you can list that on the form so that we know how to get your kit to you if we do not have a volunteer who can drop it off. And we'll be utilizing the United States Mail Service, Postal Service for that. All right. If you have any additional questions, please reach out. That's what we're here for. And as I tend to say at every training, we really appreciate your being here. That has been expressed by every team member. And we share that. And we hope that you never have to use your kit. But we are so glad that you will have this kit and will have received some training on how to use it, and know that you are not alone, and that there are so many people that are not able to be on this screen, but who are working equally hard to do what they can. Substance use disorder presents itself very differently, right? We're not cookie cutter folks, right? Anyone, it's an equal opportunity disease or disorder. And we don't get the opportunity for wellness without, many of us, without the care of those who love us and being willing to have those difficult conversations. So I just want to thank you again and wish you well, and have a great day.